Welcome to Wayne's World, rising above the noise and confusion.
It's Wayne's Word.
Oh.
Welcome, Mayor Yemi Mobolade.
Thank you.
Of Colorado Springs. You are the mayor of the 35th largest... 39th largest city in the United States. This, I don't think people realize that you are the elected mayor of a city that is larger than Miami, Oakland, Minneapolis, New Orleans, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, St. Louis. Those are just a few. These are what we call dateline cities.
You're absolutely right.
You know, these are cities that are of such magnitude and such population that if you're writing an article for a magazine or a newspaper, you don't put the state after it. They're that important. So you are larger than some of the largest cities in the country. And for that reason and more, it is a real honor to have you here.
Oh, thank you. So, that's very kind. Thank you for having me.
How is your first term going as mayor?
I think it's going well. You know, you carry the weight of not the world, but of a city on your shoulders, and I take that very seriously. I'm a public servant, and I'm also a political newcomer. I'm not a newcomer to leadership, and my city. I am a newcomer to politics. I would say I kicked off this year, 2025. I felt different in terms of my mayoral leadership. And I was trying to figure out what was different. And I feel like I felt very settled. I got this.
Yeah.
Like I'm used to this. I'm familiar with this identity. And so there's a settledness. There's a little bit more of an ease. And I mean, as men and leaders, we spend a lot of our career trying to prove ourselves. And as you age and as you mature, I hear that you stop proving. And I really felt that. It was just like, you know, I have a job to do. We're going to do it well. I have a great team. And so it's been good. 21 months into this, by the way.
21 months.
21 months.
Yeah. I've known your two predecessors fairly well. Mayor Steve Bach and Mayor John Suthers. This, I don't know, you know, our listeners and audience probably don't realize, but this is a strong mayor city.
Yeah, strong mayor form of government.
So there's no city manager.
We have two very distinct branches of government, the legislative branch and the executive branch.
In some other cities, even some large cities, there's a mayor, and it's almost ceremonial, symbolic,
exactly.
And then there's a city manager who runs the show.
Yeah.
And that's not a model that works great in a lot of large cities. And that used to be the case in Colorado Springs when it was a much smaller city than it is now. But now you are governing 500,000 residents in a city that is growing very quickly.
That is correct.
State demographers say that it will be larger than Denver by 2050.
Excellent. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So what is that like? Having talked to your predecessors and known them quite well in the past, both of them, well, one of them in particular, told me how overwhelming it was. And this person had been a corporate executive. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Mr. Steve Bach. And he had run a large company, and he got into the mayor's office, and he didn't know what the heck he had gotten himself into. I mean, he was absolutely. He called me and he said, I've run companies and I've been an executive. This is overwhelming." And he went to work.
It is nonstop. It really is nonstop, and I'm in it. It's what I signed up for. I'm not complaining. I get up every day. I have a job to do, and I do it, and I'm so grateful, especially with someone like with my humble origins and being an immigrant and being able to become an American citizen and achieve the American dream. You will never hear me complain, but it is a lot. Sometimes I'm reminded it's a lot through the lens of others. So, for example, my executive assistant, who's a namesake of mine, just recently transitioned into another role, and so I have one of my other assistants in.
This would be, can I say, Yemi?
Yes, her name is Yemi too.
Believe it or not, Yemi Mobolade became mayor of Colorado Springs, started hiring his staff, and he hires as an executive assistant a young woman I don't think you'd ever met, correct?
I did know her. Yeah,
from the past? How far past?
She was involved from the community before I became a candidate, and then she was involved in my campaign as well.
The point of this is her name happens to be Yemi. Now, you are the first Yemi I met. And through you, I met the second Yemi I've ever met.
That is correct. So what Yemi Sanchez is her name.
Yeah,
and
she's
sometimes
delightful.
when I would tell people, okay, my assistant is going to reach out to you, but don't get spooked with her name. And it's not a prank. It is for real.
Right.
Because, so I have to give people a heads up. But, okay, so she's transitioned, and I have a new assistant, and she is learning the ropes. And she goes, Lord have mercy. Your job, the number of inquiries and inputs and things that you have to do. My team says my schedule is scary. So I agree with my predecessor, Steve Bach. And Steve and I talk from time to time.
Yeah.
I reach out to him. I reach out to him and John Suthers from time to time as I need, because they're the only two leaders that actually understand my job in the entire city.
They're the only two who've ever been in your job.
They're the only two that have ever been in my job.
Because Steve Bach, back in, 2012 maybe, was the city voted to change its form of government away from the city manager, strong council.
Right.
So you had a legislature basically running everything.
Exactly.
The legislature would hire a city manager, tell the city manager what to do.
Right.
The last city manager, that went very badly.
Right. And there were some challenges, and that's why there was an appetite for us to evolve and to grow up as a city. And then Steve Bach became the first strong mayor.
Yeah.
Last fall, I was catching up with him and picking his brain on a couple of issues. And the first words out of his mouth were, well, Yemi, I got to give it to you. You have it harder than I did. And I said, no, there's no way, Steve. You had it harder. We kind of went back and forth. And I was like, you're the first strong mayor, all the push and pull, power dynamic. He said, I know. But my job was all local. Now you have to deal with local challenges, state and federal. And I didn't know what he truly meant until I started having challenges with federal politics making its way to my city. Mm-hmm. And I went, oh, this is what Steve is talking about. We both understand how hard this job is. And he's saying, but you also have to deal with a whole new set of challenges that I didn't have to deal with.
What are some of those federal encroachments that are happening to federal and state?
Well, it's there were the days where we used to, mayors would take pride and say our job is just local. I mean, our election is a nonpartisan, supposed to be, and we've always approached it as such because of the hyper partisan nature of our country and how many of our residents, their first identity is a political identity. Mm-hmm. You can see how now that has changed the local landscape. We used to joke that there's no such thing as a Democratic pothole or a Republican pothole, and that's so true because mayors get things done. I mean, we're about making decisions that truly affect the quality of life for our residents. You know, many of our residents are neighbors. We see them at grocery stores and gyms and a kid's school. So we're making decisions that impact our joint quality of life. And that was true for a long time. Now, in this current landscape, there is people approach me around political issues. Mayor, what's your viewpoint on abortion? I was like, well, I have my personal viewpoint, but that has nothing to do with my job. Well, we need to know that. You need to talk about that publicly. You need to make a statement. They want me to make a statement of every federal political issue going on. And my answer to them is, regardless of your political identity, my job is to serve you. There's no way I'm saying I'm paving the roads short of people who I don't agree with politically. I'm going to pave this side of the street because they agree with me.
You're not going to do what FEMA does and skip over the people with a Trump sign in their front yard?
Oh, I didn't realize that was going on. But that's an example of federal. As mayors, that's not our job. That's not our job. Yeah. Our job is not to police people's political affiliations.
And you have to use the political process to become the mayor of almost any large city.
Right.
You got to run for an election. That sort of injects politics into it right there, doesn't it?
Depends. I hear you, Wayne.
I'm not saying that it should be that way or you want it that way. I'm just saying it is that way. You have to go out and whether you run as an independent, yet
Right.
it was a Republican-Democrat debate. What is he? Is he a Republican or a Democrat? Which side does he fall on
that
as
is
an
a good
independent?
example of what
Yeah.
we're just talking about. The city charter says it's a nonpartisan race. The city charter, which is our local constitution, if that's another way to think about it, describe and spells out how our laws should work. It also describes the job of a mayor. It says it's a nonpartisan job. But that's a good example, Wayne, of how federal politics has made its way into local politics. I was interested in talking about public safety, infrastructure, and parks. People wanted to know where I stood politically. And I ran a campaign that was different than most residents are used to. I wanted to show that we can do this true to the spirit of our city charter.
Mm-hmm.
I ran as an independent. While the chatter was going on, is he a Republican or Democrat? I didn't engage in it. Here's what I want to do for our city.
Well, and I kept seeing these blogs and stories and social media posts
Right.
saying, Yemi Mobolade was at a left-wing rally. And then shortly after you were elected mayor, a far left-wing blog publication, whatever
Criticized
it is,
me.
criticized
From
you.
attending a right-wing
Basically, you
revival.
Right. Basically, you attested to your love for Jesus,
Right.
and the left went berserk.
They went, and that's still true to today. I mean, today I'm getting criticized by the left and right on my immigration response. Well, first of all, immigration is not in the mayor's purview. That is the feds. You have made it clear that it doesn't matter your status, U.S. citizen or foreign-born, non-citizen, undocumented, whatever you are. I don't have any tolerance for crime or criminals.
Good.
They should be deported, in my opinion. They should be held accountable. But I've also been clear when the media asked me, "Well, what's your opinion about immigrants, both legal and undocumented?" I said, we all have our pathways of coming to the great country of America that I love, and there's so many immigrants that are doing good in this community, paying taxes and okay. So that was my response to the public. I got criticized both by the left and the right. The left were not happy about my response, even about criminals, and I stand by it, that it doesn't matter who you are. That's just public safety is really important to me. And then the right were happy to hear the one part of my statement. They didn't like the other side of the statement, but that's the thing, Wayne. Most Americans live in a tension of viewpoints and philosophies. We humans are not just black or white. I know that's what we read and we see on TV, but the reality is most Americans are not. And so we live in a tension of values, and I long for those days to come back.
You came here from Nigeria.
Yes, I was born in Lagos, Nigeria. Moved here at age 17 to attend college. Attended a small Christian liberal arts university in Indiana, northern Indiana.
That's right. What was it called?
Bethel. Shout out to Bethel University.
Bethel University, and you were
with Christ at the helm.
Christ at the helm.
That's the motto.
I love it.
Yeah, I was a commencement speaker last May.
What was your message?
Oh, that's a good
If you
one.
can remember.
No,
I understand if you can't.
I can't. I do remember because I gave the same message this morning to a group of students.
Okay.
I challenged them with three. First of all, I told my story of what it's like, how I arrived into the country, lost.
17, right? Age
17 years old. I was lost, angry, and didn't know who I was. And this country has been good to me. And running for office was a good way as an immigrant to give back to the land that gave me so much. So I gave them hope, telling them my story, because people just assume this has always been true of Yemi. No, I was a hopeless kid. And I'm the product of good mentors and friends and friendtors who saw greatness in me before I saw it in myself. So that was part of my speech, to encourage them. But the other part, second half of it, was I gave them three things. I let them know that, have you ever heard of the phrase tempus fugit?
I have.
Time
yes.
flees?
Yeah.
Okay, so make every day count. The second message was know your why.
That one I don't got.
Yeah, know your why, because often we're told this is what do you need? What are you going to do with your life? What profession? And they say the two greatest The two most important days of your life is the day you were born and the day you found out why you were born. So this is know your purpose. And when you know your purpose, you begin to kick ass with your what?
So you had that day. When was it, and what did you learn is your purpose?
My purpose?
Yes.
My mission statement is to collaborate for the health, growth, and prosperity of my beloved city of Colorado Springs. And so you see, collaboration is the very essence of who I am. And I lean into that strength and that skill set. I say, if you know your why, it will give you a reason to get up in the morning, to kick ass during the day, and to go to sleep at night. And I think it's when you live with purpose, it's a game changer.
Yes.
You can get things done. You can conquer. And then the third message was chase the lion. Become a lion chaser. Because in the wild, the script ends the same way every time. The human sees the wild beast. The lion sees human. Human tries to run away from the lion. The lion catches up to the human, eat humans for lunch.
Uh-huh.
But when you're pursuing God-sized dreams and goals, you turn around and you face the lion. You run to the roar. You grab opportunity by the mane and you don't let go. And you do something that is destined to fail without divine intervention. And that was my encouragement to them. And then and the nice thing is that I have a story to back it up. The lion I was chasing was running for mayor as a political newcomer.
As a political newcomer, you're a small businessman at the time and a minister, a preacher.
I was a pastor. I moved to the city as a pastor.
Sorry, I didn't mean to give you a demotion there. Pastor, yes.
Why are you just calling me a preacher? I'm offended.
Yeah, really, like some sort of associate or something. Okay, coming into the mayor's office with that background, which is a great background. Don't get me wrong; it's a wonderful background, but it's not the management of hundreds of millions of dollar budget and a city of 500,000 people that's growing by leaps and bounds.
And that's the beauty of it. Most mayors have not done that. John Suthers didn't run something of that scale.
Nope.
Steve Bach didn't run something of that scale. Well, when you're faithful in the little, God gives you your faithful in the. They say how you do anything is how you do everything. As a business owner, as a nonprofit founder, as someone who's done a number of this city, things that are true of me is I bring people to the table. I'm able to work with rivals. I'm very financial stewardship is really important to me. So if you're faithful with $1, you're faithful with $100,000. I just think it's the business and leadership principles that you bring to the office. Now, I'll give you a confession. I am not a very good politician. Actually, my team has told me that.
Well, that might be a good thing.
But they often say, you're not a good politician, but you're a good leader.
I can't dispute that at all from what I've seen. I'm just an observer.
Well, wait, but look at what's happening in the national scene. Well, regardless of who you like in terms of political affiliation, but watch what's happening nationally. America is pursuing different types of politician. So hang with me. When Barack Obama announced he was going to run as a 2-year junior senator, what did the Democrats say?
They said that he didn't have the qualifications.
He didn't have the qualification. Yeah. They dismissed him. Put in your time. You've never done this.
He gave an amazing speech. And Hillary Clinton kept pointing that out. He gave a speech. That's about it.
Yeah. Okay. Fast forward. When Donald Trump announced the first time he was going to run, what did the Republican Party say?
They thought it was crazy.
You haven't put in your time. You don't have the qualification to do this. That famous escalator scene where people are going, this is a joke. Guess what America did? They elected Donald Trump.
That's exactly.
When Yemi said he was going to run, what did the city say? He doesn't. This is a joke. He doesn't have any quality. And what we're missing is that I think Americans are getting tired of politicians, and they're taking a risk on different types of leaders that will restore democracy and order to our society and a world that is losing it.
I first heard your name, didn't know you were alive. Until
I want to hear this.
Until you ran for mayor. And there's all these named people running, I mean, we had the former Secretary of State, Wayne Williams, running, a very highly qualified person, as qualified as you could be for the job, I believe.
And you had Darrell Glenn and Lorinos Gonzalez.
Right. We had some big name people in this state. And I saw your name, and I'm like, who the heck is that? Who's that? That's just, and of course, I immediately dismissed you as one of those sort of fringe, maybe even,
right.
Yeah.
There were fringe candidates running too.
Fringe candidates, right. and then you've got the candidates who just do it because it's fun to do. It's something to do. They want to make a name for themselves.
It makes a name for themselves.
A vanity campaign almost. I actually immediately put you in that category because I just simply had never heard your name, and it's kind of a funny name,
right?
And so, and then I started talking to people, and they're like, Yemi, he's connected. People know him. They like him, and he's doing really well in the polls. And, at that point, it occurred to me that something was happening very different than what it typically goes on.
It grew. I'm still blown away, Wayne, by that whole experience. At one point, my name ID, my name strength was 5%.
At the early stages of the campaign.
By election day, it turned to 90%.
I was going to say, I'm surprised it was at 5.
It was a 5.
Early in the, yeah.
And it's a 5 because, and that's, 5% was a good starting place that grew because that 5% represented the faith community. That's what people don't realize, that
you were connected in the faith.
I was connected in the faith community. That's one group, faith community, where not only was I a pastor, I started a nonprofit called COS I Love You that unifies about 100 churches together to serve the city, collaboration. And I led this organization and would invite my predecessor, Mayor John Suthers, to address the group. So so that was one aspect. That 5% also represented the business community. I was a VP at the Economic Development Corporation and Chamber here in Colorado Springs. I was the one that would visit a number of CEOs in the city to ask them, how can we support you? And it was that group that actually convinced me to run. I mean, these are CEOs of companies of 1,000, 1,200 who saw me. The pastors who I've worked with from large to small saw me, and many of these people could attest to who I was before the public knew about me. They're going, oh yeah, we know this guy. He'll be great for our city.
That's just it. You had a base that I don't think most people knew existed. It wasn't the standard political base.
No, it wasn't public.
It wasn't part of the political
I was
system.
doing the work behind the scenes. I wasn't asking for public notoriety around this work. Yeah.
You're from Nigeria.
Yes, sir.
And I love Nigeria.
I know your wife has a tie to it.
Oh, my wife does a lot of work in Nigeria. She has a great
I'm jealous.
love.
I haven't been there in, I don't know.
I've been there more than you have.
Yes,
lately.
you have. And stop telling me that because it pisses me off. I haven't been there probably like 15, 20 years.
Wow, you need to go back.
I
I'm actually hoping to go back soon.
Do you guys go to Abuja? Do you go
we went to Abuja. We went to McCurdy, Jos.
Jos.
Oh,
that's a great
Am I mispronouncing? Yeah.
Jos is a great place.
Yeah, and there's a state university there.
Yes.
And my wife has a very good friend there, Gloria, who is she's a professor at Jos State.
Yeah.
And we went to McCurdy State University and spoke there.
Wow.
McCurdy. I don't think people realize how enormous this country is in terms of population.
Oh, it's
largest. Not that much smaller than the United States and will be larger than the United States. We talk about Colorado Springs taking over Denver. Nigeria is going to overtake the United States in population this century.
It's I don't know how to describe that country. It's special and it's unique and it's populated, and you see that Nigerians are scattered all over the globe.
Yeah.
And are making a difference. Like even you look in England, the head of the Conservative Party in England right now is Kemi, who's a Nigerian, and she could potentially become the next prime minister.
Well, my wife and her associates think Nigeria is fertile ground for leadership, business,
right.
And I just know we drove many hours through Nigeria and villages everywhere. I mean, there's just population everywhere. You don't go 10 or 20 miles between towns.
Right.
And most of it is very poor.
Exactly.
Can you explain what the conditions were that you grew up in? Because what I saw were a lot of huts, mud huts, if that, and all along the highways. And China's building freeways there now.
Right.
They're not very good, but they're building them.
Yes.
Belt and Road Initiative.
Right.
And along the freeways, there would be children running out into the freeway trying to sell something to us. I'm in the window. I'm looking out the window of a car, and we would buy stuff occasionally.
That's the environment I grew up in.
And then what was so weird was our driver, if he didn't like the traffic over here on this side of the freeway, he would go to the other side of the freeway and go the wrong way. And this was a thing. This was common.
It became common the last 2 years I was there before I came to the U.S. That just emerged from nowhere. In fact, I learned to drive in Nigeria, in Lagos, of all places, as a 16-year-old.
And Lagos is an enormous city.
Oh, yeah.
It's New York City plus.
That is next level. This is why when I used to live out east in Indiana, I know we'd go to New York City and I'd drive. And then once we got to New York City, I felt like the Nigerian in me came out because it's like, oh, I can keep up with this traffic. You can handle New
York, if you've been in Lagos,
if I can drive in Lagos, New York is nothing. New York City is nothing. But you described it so well. I do think, and when you see those little kids coming out in the street, and that is part of my origin. That is why when I was told that, this job is going to be a lot, it's like, that's what we do. We're taught to work hard. We're taught to hustle. You're taught to make every opportunity. What Nigerians don't have that I feel so guilty, to be honest, is opportunity. I'm lucky. I'm so damn lucky. I was able to come to this country, go to college, but I'm not going to sit on the sidelines and not maximize the opportunity of being an American. But you've seen how there's so much poverty and so many people don't have any, but you can see how Nigerians are fighting to survive. They're smart people, brilliant people, but lack opportunities and a corrupt government that withholds opportunities from its own people.
Yeah, and there's energy there too. They can harvest energy, and there's a lot of resources.
The seventh most oil-producing country in the world.
Yet it's poor.
Bingo. Why?
That's what I want to ask you.
I'm asking you too.
I'm wondering if it's is it absolute lawlessness and corruption?
Bingo.
Lawlessness.
Lawlessness and corruption.
I saw on the highway we could do anything we wanted. And I asked my friend who we were traveling with, I said, what do the cops do? They're strictly for accidents, crashes. They don't enforce any traffic laws.
When you come from a lawless community, I was just sharing this the other day because I signed a contract to be working with an agent for a book. And so I'm now thinking of just stories. And man, I'm getting emotional. But I was thinking of a story where I was held at gunpoint. I was robbed at gunpoint. And I'll never forget that moment. I was robbed. I was held at gunpoint.
This is in Lagos?
This is in Lagos. I had no one to call.
You don't get on your cell phone and dial 911.
It was just literally, that was it. I tried to chase down the guy, which was probably stupid. Never caught up with him, but I didn't know what else to do. You grew up in an environment where people can do that, no accountability, and no one to call for help. Contrast that to the women and men who raise their hand and say, I'm going to give my life to protect my fellow resident. Why wouldn't I protect those people? Why wouldn't I stand up for them? That's so my desire for public safety and also being for the rule of law, because I experienced an environment in a country that didn't have that. And I'm relentless about the rule of law. I even tell people, if you don't like the law, if there's a decision, because here's the danger of politics today. The end justifies the mean. It never justifies the mean. If you don't like the law, we change the law. But we don't, because if you open that door, you become like many of these third world countries, and you can see how a country like Nigeria has so many resources, but the people are kept down because of lawlessness.
We have to have security to go around
right.
Nigeria, because it's just so dangerous that you can visit the country and tour the country,
right.
but you've got to have guys with machine guns
right.
standing next to you.
Right.
And I thought that
so
was...
So you're like the president of the United States when you go there.
You feel like it. Yeah. It's kind of like...
security all over you.
Yeah, exactly. I've never been... You arranged the trip through the state. I think, let's see, I can't remember what state Benue State.
Benue, is it Benny?
Benny,
yeah, Benny State. Yeah.
Benny State.
Yeah, that's...
an white American calling it Benue, but yeah.
Okay.
It's Benny.
Yeah.
Benny. Okay,
that's kind of in more eastern?
Yes,
yeah,
that's right. And
eastern?
Southeastern.
Yeah, southeastern. Well
and
done.
Yeah, and then...
Wow. I'm very impressed.
I hope I'm right.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's Southeastern.
Yes, that's what I thought.
I spent time there.
You have to get some sort of diplomatic sponsorship really to be safe.
You might have to hook me up.
You might
have more hookups in my country of origin than I do.
My wife probably does at this point. Yes, I don't.
My wife has never been. My wife is American.
Yeah.
She's Caucasian. She grew up in Midwest, and she loves Nigerian food. She's really embraced the culture, but she's never been. We were trying to go, I think 3 or 4 years ago. Then COVID happened, but we've talked about going again, and when that time comes, I'm going to make sure I reach out to your wife for suggestions.
Yeah, you should. She could be very helpful.
Help. Yeah,
we're going to go again here soon. But what I really liked about Nigeria was what isn't in Nigeria: chain stores, fast food. I didn't see a lot of that kind of stuff. Once in a while, you'd see that a Pizza Hut had come into some town,
right,
or something, but very, very little of that. So if you really want to escape the United States and go to someplace vastly different, go to Nigeria, or I'm sure a number of other countries
that's awesome.
in Africa. But it was I really love that place and look forward to going back.
Thank you for telling that piece of the story. In all the podcasts I've done, and I've done plenty in storytelling, I think the first time I've really dived into my origins like this. It's what a gift.
Good.
And it's timely because I am trying to recollect as much as I can those stories and those early formation for this future book that, there's no timeline or anything, but so it's really time. And those are values have shaped who I am today. So if you hear me say things like it takes a village to get anything done, for me, that's not just a nice concept. Literally, I experience the concept of a village to move things forward.
I really saw that there. I mean, while it's a massive population, I think 250 million people or more, it's most people are scattered in little villages that sort of butt up to each other or they're close.
Grew up with grandparents, uncles and aunts, everybody, one big happy family. You don't hear things like mental health challenges because of the social dynamic when you're living in proximity with family members and close friends. My parents both were working professionals, and there was always people looking after us and helping us, people to talk to. You're learning from your sages. That was a cultural shock for me that we actually put our senior citizens in different homes. They live with you, and then you're learning from them so that you don't repeat the same mistakes because history repeats itself. So that whole village dynamic was so powerful for our mental health. And that's why in
some ways, Nigeria is, while it's very poor relative to the United States, in some ways it's rich relative to the United States.
But we often talk about, and it's not just limited to Nigeria. You see this in other parts of the world. These people have so little, and yet they have the biggest smiles, and yet they're happy.
That is exactly what I saw.
It shows. It's a powerful reminder that wealth is not happiness is not connected to wealth.
No, and if you spend time in Nigeria or in any place, you could go into Mexico and find some of the same dynamics. Right. It's definitely not, because those children I'm talking about, they'd come up to you with a basket of fruit on their head or, a bundle of bananas or whatever it was. I've never seen such joy. And here they are out in the hot sun. It was 100 degrees in January and they're walking out into traffic. If that happened here, it would be a scandal. But it's just amazing how little public safety there is.
Right.
No, but the joy is absolute. And I saw almost no exceptions to that at the college campuses we went to.
Let's connect that to last summer and the 1,000 neighborhood gathering initiative that was pushing for.
Yes.
Now you can see where
that's what you're trying to do.
You can see where those origins are coming from, and Wayne, I don't just want to be in the business of responding to 911 calls, because that's my job. My job is to make sure we have enough first responders so that when you call 911, we can get there people fast enough. But that's not really solving anything. I want to be in the business of how do we stop some of these issues from having an upstream solution, and a healthy mind is where it starts with. And an unhealthy mind is still the root cause of many of our societal crises, including domestic abuse, suicide, many of our homicides.
You don't have a suicide crisis in Nigeria.
No, we don't.
And people are wondering where their next meal is coming from.
Bingo.
Children are bringing buckets of water home from wherever they can get it.
I was that kid, by the way.
Were you? You were bringing. You didn't have running water.
We didn't have running water, so we would literally go half a mile to go to the well, grab water, walk another half a mile, dump it in the house, and go back.
Did you have electricity?
In Lagos, I mean, you had electricity about a third of the time.
I was going to say, when we were, wherever we went,
right.
Yeah, we had electricity,
right.
Like you say, about a third of the time.
So
and then,
when you're giving me a wonderful gift, if you want to understand, Yemi, this is why people say you're always optimistic. You're always seeing opportunity. That is why.
You were one of those kids carrying buckets of water with a great big smile on his face.
Bingo.
Who I saw thousands and thousands of them.
You live in the United States. So contrast that to the blessing of being an American regardless of how bad it is. I know that 3/4 of the world which want to trade places with us.
Well, sure. And you come over here and you bring this joy to the country. But in Nigeria, do we have, right now we have a mental health crisis in this country, widespread mental health crisis. We also have all sorts of conflicts going on about LGBTQ, right. IA plus issues. Who am I? How do I fit into this society? Do you see that? Did you see that when you were in Nigeria?
No. And here's why. I have a philosophy around that.
Okay.
So think about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Right.
What's at the foundation? Food, shelter,
clothing.
Yeah, very basic foundation. And then you go to the next level, a sense of belonging, but you go to the level, and then what's at the very top? I think Abraham Maslow gave us a very important tool to make sense of the world. And I don't think we're talking about this enough. At the very top is self-actualization. So think about where America was in the days of the Great Depression, World War I, World War II. In fact, I remember in college, I would when you're an immigrant and an international student, you are invited to people's homes for the holidays, which was so many great Midwesterners who I still consider family, who just treated me like one of their own. So I remember even in Illinois, I was dating this girl, and I went to our home for one of the holidays, and I met her grandparents, and we were trading stories, and we realized that we actually grew up very similar. Life for her grandparents in America was at a time that was much harder. It wasn't in terms of the wealth we have today. I'm a student of Abraham Lincoln, so I'm always reading about the mid-1800s. When I hear about the story of 1800, it mimics the world and the reality I grew up in. Okay, hang with me. That is not where we're at today. We've moved all through that pyramid, and now where we're at today is self-actualization. When you're not having to worry about food, shelter, clothing, and all these needs. No, we have the luxury. We have the luxury of conversations around identity and self-actualization. And this, by the way, and I know John Suthers is a student of history, and he reads about the rise and fall of superpowers. This, by the way, follows a trend of many superpowers. When you get to the height of civilization and you're fighting over self-actualization issues, that's the beginning of the end. So
what happens to the United States now that we're at self-actualization stage?
If we don't right this ship, it begins to fall. And John said it's going to be gradual. It's not going to be fast. It's going to be the gradual fall because we've moved past, how do we take care of our neighbors? Neighbors are hungry, and how do we think about putting food? How do we shelter?
When you're worried about that and you're spending half your day bringing water,
right? You don't have time to get creative with solving all these issues that I don't want to say they're not important, but they're not the most important thing, because being able to feed your family and have at least one meal a day or 2 meals a day is the most important thing. There's no room for idealism.
It's a lot easier to be joyful in that situation.
It's a lot easier to be joyful.
It doesn't look easy.
When you can eat 3 times a day, that is a miracle. You are celebrating that.
Yes.
That's not what we celebrate.
We don't think anything of it.
We don't think about it. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Frankly, tonight, my wife and kids and I are going to go, we're too lazy to cook. Let's go out. That's what we do. That's how damn lucky we are.
Yes. So as an immigrant,
yes,
we are dealing with an immigrant crisis in this country right now. I would think that as a immigrant mayor, you might be one of the big city mayors in the United States who would want to be a sanctuary city, like your colleague up north, Mayor Mike Johnston of Denver.
Right.
He likes being a sanctuary city.
Right.
He likes welcoming tens of thousands. I think in the last 2 years, he's welcomed 45,000, mostly Venezuelan immigrants, as you know, into his city. And it's a real mess. Why aren't you, as an immigrant, so compassionate toward other immigrants that you would make Colorado Springs a sanctuary city? Just, it's just 50 minutes down the road from Denver. Why not do the same thing?
Let's be clear. I am compassionate. Empathy is one of my core values. My faith is alive. I mean, Jesus was about the least of these.
Yes.
Okay, so that's one part of the story. My family, the second part of the story, my family often criticized me for, and my wife, they're like, gosh, you're so objective. I mean, I am the guy in the family, when there's family drama, they all call for my opinion. Yeah. And I'm able to untangle the whole family drama and explain what's going on, and even say, this is how everyone's role fits in the family, including mine, and this is our tendencies. So I submit that to say I'm very objective as well in my leadership. I understand the plight of immigrants. I also want to remind us that we're a nation of immigrants. You have an immigrant story in terms
Absolutely.
But
and you are an immigrant.
I am an immigrant.
But you did not come here illegally.
I didn't come here illegally. I am blessed. I was lucky to get a H-1B visa and get a job. I'm a product of luck and faith and hard work.
And education.
And thank you for saying that. Big time education. And having guardians in the United States of America who were able to care for us when my parents are in a different part of the world. So that is my own immigrant. But I bring that to say is I am legal, the number of people that are illegal, but at the end of the day, the strive for a better life for your family is similar. Now, I wish they went through the legal process, but I can't criticize their journey because I don't know what it's like to do that. So I still have the empathy, but the very objective side of me goes, that is impossible to be a sanctuary city. It's a bad deal for my city. It's a bad deal for Colorado Springs. There is no way that's happening under my watch. And by the way, I was sworn to be a mayor for Colorado Springs residents. I barely have resources to care for my own city to take on that. And really, the feds should do their job. That should never even be the work of a mayor to begin with, because that's not what we signed up for. And so now that's being handled. But for so many reasons, we will not be a sanctuary city. And the challenge of undocumented immigrants is with the legal side. There's a process to know who's coming in and also to keep the bad people out. With undocumented process, there's no way to know who's good or bad. So unfortunately, the good people are rolled in with some of the bad people, and it causes chaos and crisis in our city. And that's not what I want to bring to the city of Colorado Springs. So really not under my watch. And I know my position is not satisfactory for both people on the left and the right. On the right, they go, that's not good enough. On the left, they go,
why would they say that on the right, that that's not good enough? You're not going to be a sanctuary city.
I have to take a hard stance. And here's what's about politics, which is not me. Politics and political tribalism is all about us versus them.
Yes.
So there's no room for middle ground solutions like independent. So for me to say I'm not a sanctuary city, my narrative has to be, I have to almost dehumanize people made in the image of God. And that's what politics is. The people that it's not just, we're not going to be a sanctuary, it's let's dehumanize undocumented. And I would never do that. God loves those people.
Yes. You're saying some people on the right would like you to actually have some sort of grudge against them.
Exactly.
Yeah. As opposed to just...
On the left is the immigrant mayor that doesn't care for the immigrant. What a shame. I've heard that several times.
I'm sure you get that a lot. But just like I say, just up the road, we've got a mayor who's made a spectacle of himself nationally. He has dared Donald Trump and Tom Homan to come in and deport people, and he will be standing there at the city limits with 10,000 what he calls Highland moms, Not sure what that means. And they're going to stop them. You sound like a mayor who's much more interested in working with
Bingo.
the federal government.
Well, that's again, I'm pragmatic.
Yeah.
I'm not emotional in my leadership, and I can't speak to what other mayors do. They're entitled to, but I don't want to have a target on my back. I don't have these heightened emotions around issues. I'm just what does the job require of me? What is the law? What does the city code demand of me? What did I sign up for?
Yeah.
I have a job. I have a job description. I have to do that job regardless. And if I don't want to do that job, then leave the job and then have a bullhorn and give opinions. But that's just my job. One of the top priorities of my job is public safety.
Yes.
And public safety, whether you're U.S. born or whether you're foreign born, whether you're a U.S. citizen, whether you're a non-citizen, if you commit crime, we have to hold you accountable. And that's just bad for our community. And I take that seriously. And I almost separate that from even in immigration. What marvels me, Wayne, is when we hold American citizens accountable who have committed crime. Why wouldn't we hold undocumented people who have committed crime? Why? I
can't see any justification for that at all. But I do want to say, and I consider myself very much on the right.
Right.
I'm not a tribalist, but
Right.
I am on the right, and I have tremendous compassion for illegal immigrants.
Right.
I have godchildren who are the children of illegal immigrants.
Mm.
I have some of them have started great businesses in this country.
Mm.
I just don't think that we should be inviting them into large cities,
Right.
Because first of all, it's not even good for them.
Right.
Up in Denver, the Venezuelan immigrants are complaining about the Venezuelan gang members who've been let across.
That's what I mean. That's a challenge of when you don't have secure borders. You don't know. There's no process to determine good from bad.
Yeah.
And so we have a mess in our hands right now because we don't have a way to everyone looks the same until crime starts to happen. And whether you're documented or undocumented, everyone's afraid of criminals. No one wants to be hurt. Everyone wants their family to be safe. And the folks that are escaping in some cases persecution to refugees to find refuge even here is because they want public safety. So
yes.
The point I'm making is we all want public safety. I mean, Maslow's hierarchy of need, that's at the very bottom. I mean, safety, if you don't have safety, you have nothing.
You have nothing. If you don't have structure, if you don't have enforcement of rules, you have nothing.
And that's a challenge. And that's a challenge of the illegal immigration conversation right now. And I know that's what President Trump and his administration is trying to take care of. Now, there's a broader conversation. What about the 11 million undocumented? I don't know. But I do know, Wayne, that when I look at the data, there's a huge cost to our nation if we, both in terms of deporting 11 million people and the economic impact of all those 11 million people that are working in agricultural and hospitality. And so we have to,
exactly.
There are no great answers, but we have to figure that out.
But let's hope that Donald Trump sticks to the worst first strategy. Right. Get the criminals out of here that are violating Americans and immigrants, legal and otherwise.
Exactly. By the way, the data shows that 88% of Americans agree with that.
Yes.
We all want that. Again, safety.
I don't even know how we got into this mess. I don't know whoever thought it was a good idea to say, just come to this city without a job, without money, without a home, without food. I don't know who thought that was a good idea.
Again, we're having conversations around the very top of the Maslow hierarchy is idealism. That's the debate we're having right now as a nation.
Yes.
Yeah.
A very interesting way to look at it.
Right.
That we're so comfortable that we are fretting, we're worrying about things
we're so comfortable. Let me be more explicit. We're so comfortable that we're inventing problems. An immigrant from Nigeria can say that.
Yes, and I think you have that perspective, which some of us don't.
Right.
Because we haven't lived in Nigeria.
Exactly.
Well, you came from an entirely, almost 100% black population.
Exactly. So I don't have the tension I've grown up as a young kid in America, so I'm also empathetic for that, about that. I didn't grow up with a white and black dynamic because everyone looked like me growing up.
Yes.
But I did step into that dynamic. And what most people, and you see this in my book, I'll tell the story of my first year in the country in 1996. Also, one of my best friends, his first year in the country, he was from Russia. We both went to the same school. I was from Nigeria. We both were experiencing America for the first time. We both went on a run. He was a lot faster than I was. I was trying to keep up with him. I was huffing and puffing. And an officer came, drove by me, drove by him, turned around and stopped me. Started to ask me questions.
Not him.
Not him.
So you've experienced this racism.
I have experienced it. It was asking me questions, and I was so confused because I had no context for it. Oleg stops and comes to get me. He's surprised to see Oleg right by me, and he was asking him a question, and he too was confused. He had no context for
this.
And then he eventually said, "But why are you chasing him?" And we both laughed. We're like, "We're friends. He's just a faster runner." And then we both walked back to campus.
So he's ahead of you, and the cops are thinking you're chasing him. Okay, that's
We both walked back
ridiculous.
to campus, and we told our friends the story, and they said, "Welcome to America." And that's when, in that moment, Oleg and I realized that our color mattered. We both came from worlds where people looked
didn't
like
matter.
them. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
Now, that's true. Well, you know what's also true of that community? One of my closest friends was the deputy chief of police, who we had a great friendship, and for 2 years actively recruited me to be an officer because he thought I would be a wonderful officer, and it didn't matter what my color was. So that's part of the. Okay, so going back to your original question, I said the Black history is a key part of our society. What's frustrating for me is we don't celebrate our progress. Sometimes it's easy to talk about our country today as though it was during the Jim Crow era. Is there work to be done? Absolutely. But guess what? The number of cities in America that are being led by Black mayors, unbelievable. And by the way, America is one of the only few countries in the world. Think about how significant this is, what I'm about to say. What other country in the world can you have an immigrant become a mayor of a major top 50 U.S. city? We have to celebrate that.
We do, and we should.
We
and
don't talk
No,
about
we don't.
that. We have to live in the tension of both stories because we are making progress. And the fact that this guy can become a mayor of this city, I can't go to China and become a mayor of a Chinese city.
Well, and I've never heard
You can't
anyone
go to Nigeria and become a mayor of a Nigerian city.
No, it wouldn't happen.
It would never happen.
Not in a million years, no matter what
Right.
I had to offer. One of the racist things that I hear about you, and I don't hear a lot of, I've not heard any really overt racism.
Right.
I don't know that there's a lot of it in our community, in this state, I don't know. I don't walk around black, but I will say that when left, and this goes right and left,
Right.
but certainly on the left, you have come under attack because you're not a leftist.
Right.
There is a certain portion of the population that thinks because you're black, you ought to be a liberal Democrat, hard left liberal Democrat mayor.
That one, man, that one makes me emotional. That one gets to the core. I hate the profiling. I hate the identity. I think whether it's Dr. King, it talks about not the color of our skin, the content of our character.
Yes.
And I wish that's but that's why I say we're living in this tension of two things. Two things can be true at the same time. That's one of my favorite sayings as an independent. Do we still have some prejudice, whether it's racial or even how people connect racial to political affiliation? Yes, that still exists. But are we still a country where an immigrant can become a mayor of a fairly red community? Yes, those two things are true. Why can't Americans talk about those? Why do we all have to pick sides? Yes, I've experienced prejudice, but I've also received the wonderful support of so many good people. I won my election because Republicans, Democrats, and independents all voted for me. And that's what's best about America. We can talk about the work that we still need to do, absolutely.
Yes.
But I also want to celebrate what's right about our country, because when we can do that, that's where success is built upon.
Amen.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to real quick ask you about, there was a Daily Wire story that got some attention around here last year.
Right.
This thing came out, and there's some guy now convicted of murder who had staged a hate crime
Yes.
during the election, during the campaign. And this story implied that you knew about it or had something, had some knowledge of it, and did not come clean and honest with the FBI. What do you say to those critics out there? Because I read the story, and I will tell you that I didn't see it was based on an anonymous source who's still anonymous.
It's still so many people have reached out to him, and it's still anonymous. And it's the good news is that when we talk about content of character, so many people saw through the BS almost right away. I mean, the number of I probably received 120 texts during that season. And it felt like election night again. People just reaching out, and so many people said,
a lot of supportive texts.
Yeah, we know you. We're not even giving that. That is so far from left field. And by the way, Wayne, that story was told by somebody who doesn't even know my city. If you read it, it sounds like something from the South. This whole black and white. Almost like it's like
right. We know that's not going on here.
The black immigrant running against a white. I'm like, what? I mean,
in a conservative city that would somehow have something against someone because he's black,
and then activating the black votes. I'm like, there's 6% of African Americans in Colorado Springs.
Right. So it wasn't the black population that elected you. I mean, I had somebody in D.C. ask if we had a large Nigerian population here. I said no, not at all.
So the story is not consistent with even my community, but. Going through that whole process, and it's still, those guys have been indicted, and the Department of Justice was so gracious to me and, reminding me I'm the victim, and they want justice to come to me and my community, and they've given me a lot of victim resources and help. But what's most alarming about that is I was reminded in that season of why good people don't run for office. Understand that what that impact was, did it hurt? And did it do a number of my family? Absolutely.
Oh, I'll bet
but guess what it did? It hurt other people, and people went, and that's why I would never run for office. Because people can do that and get away with it. Think about how significant that is.
Oh, sure.
An LA-based tabloid that doesn't know my city can fabricate a story that affects the direction and the political dynamics of our city. Think about what that did. To my community.
Well, right, and it didn't really grow legs. I mean, it's not like anyone has ever nailed this down and said and confirmed that story.
Right.
So, I did want to ask you about it.
No, thank you for asking.
And
I look forward to justice coming to my family and justice coming to my city because
you think you'll be cleared on this thing in the end?
Do I? I don't even think.
I
know because my family and I and campaign team, we did nothing wrong. I mean, and here's the thing. I know you pay attention to the political dynamic. And so many people that saw the polling, they go, you've always been ahead. I saw the polling. I was ahead in the primary. I was ahead in the runoff. It's not like I needed some help. I mean, it's so there is
right. You didn't need that. There didn't need to be a hate crime to push you over.
There didn't need to be a hate crime.
You were way ahead.
Let me tell you how we won. We did 110 meet and greets. Think about how many people I engaged. 110 in their homes, scattered all over the city, to make a case of why I'm the best candidate.
Well,
we knocked on 40,000 doors.
Yes,
that's how you win election. You have a great plan, a great vision that you present to the community. You do 22 forums and debates, and people go, he's the grown-up in the room. He has a clear vision and points for what he wants to accomplish. That's how you win. And it's unfortunate that we have bad people in our community. Yeah.
Well, I just want to throw this in. I have someone very close to me who I love dearly, who a couple of years ago in the same jurisdiction you're in, was accused of 4 felonies. 4 of them. It was complete nonsense. Now I can't judge what you've been accused of. Right. I knew because the police had simply made a mistake in a police report. They got the victim exchanged with the perpetrator, with the suspect. It took 6 months to unravel that. It was very harmful to this person. It was devastating. This person lost sleep, started drinking. It was it was a bad deal. So I certainly hope this is a false allegation. And if it is, I know how hurtful this must be to you and your family.
It is hurtful.
I didn't sleep for 6 months.
I take great pride. And this is where I'm grown as a leader. I've always taken great pride in having a perfect record and reputation. And you surrender that in public office.
Yeah.
People get to say whatever. And the good news is that the good that came out of that season of the Daily Wire article was just a powerful reminder of the army of supporters I have. I mean, I had pastors reaching out, letting me know they were praying for me.
Great.
I had people from Indiana, my Indiana roots, because there are people texting going, clearly they don't even know who you are. If people believe that, they have no idea who, and it's unfortunate for them because they don't know you like we do. And so it is politics. And this is why, and it's probably a good note to end on, this is the prop. If there's anything that takes our country down, is political tribalism.
Yes. Are you going to meet with Donald Trump? Have you or will you?
I look forward to having a great relationship with Donald Trump. This is the blessing of being an independent. I had a good relationship with the previous administration. I look forward to having a good relationship with Donald Trump. Two things. I had planned on going to the inauguration. I was excited. I had VIP tickets to.
Weather kind of spoiled that, didn't it?
I know. I was going to sit close to the stage.
Me too. Yeah. I had really great tickets,
and the weather spoiled that. But in March, actually, I'm hopefully, Lord willing, I'm scheduled to have a White House visit with the Intergovernmental Office of Affairs.
Great.
That is the office that we mayors typically deal with, and that's the office I dealt with Biden's administration. And I just got the contact information for the guy that is leading that department. I look forward to ensuring that we have a good relationship so that Colorado Springs benefits from a good relationship with the White House and also U.S. Space Command. But that's a whole different conversation.
Yes, but you will mention that to Donald Trump when you meet with him, correct?
I will. And
hopefully it won't be a done deal.
Well, thankfully, I have good relationship and friendship with people like Jeff Crank and Lauren Boebert, who are helping too.
Okay.
With that too.
So you can work with Jeff Crank and Lauren Boebert and people on the far left, I would anticipate as
Bingo.
well. Yeah.
And that's again, it's the beauty of being independent is, I can text Lauren Boebert and we're working together on things that matter. And I can text Senator Hickenlooper and work on the things that matter. It's not about left or right, red or blue. It's about Colorado Springs for me in my case.
It's about outcomes.
It is about outcomes, yes.
Very good. Well,
thank
Mayor,
you for having me.
Thank you so much.
And I look forward to coming back.
It is a true honor to have you here, that you would come to my studio and do this show. I'm very honored by that.
Thank you.
And thank you for all you do. And best of luck from here on out. And maybe you'll run for governor.
I love how you ended that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Say everything's okay. Bring me southern kisses from your room. Meet me in the middle of the night and let me hear you say everything's alright.